going, everybody?
To Yankee Stadium.
This is stuff that dreams are made of.
Welcome back. This is not going to be a long episode. I don't sense that Yankees fans are dying to talk about this. In fact, the initial reaction that I saw online was kind of negative, which surprises me because I thought Rizzo did a nice job with the Yankees last year. But it seems as if people had their hearts set on Rizzo or on Matt Olson. And it seems like the initial comments, and this is Ryan West chiming in, says this is an L of a team. And again, I'm going to get right into your reactions. My reaction initially is positive. Obviously, I wanted Matt Olson above anything else, and I wanted Freddie Freeman when I found out he could be available. But the Yankees just aren't going to invest that much money in first base when you got to re-sign Aaron Judge soon, it seems. So El Mago says, I really wanted Freeman. I hear you. Zach Harst says, this is just sad. And then DM Baez says, I'm so effing mad. I can't sleep. You would think that this was this was really bad news. I don't think it's that bad news. I mean, he's a good player. I mean, a 2-year deal is not that bad. If they had signed him for 5 years, I'd have been stunned. But a 2-year deal for Anthony Rizzo at $16 million, I mean, that's a pretty solid deal. I mean, he's probably going to hit 25 home runs next year. He's playing a full season in Yankee Stadium. And the shift is going away in the second year of that contract, so his average should compensate a little bit. He hit 248 this year. I expect him to maybe do a little bit better this year than that because he's not going to have to deal with the spider tack the first couple of months of the year, so pitchers won't be in God mode. I think he'll hit 270 with 25 home runs this year and play great defense. And for $16 million, that allows you, if you want, to spend somewhere else. Now, the Yankees are over the cap. Well, we shouldn't say cap. The players hate when we say cap. The owners hate when we say cap. They're over the luxury tax threshold by quite a bit now. So, I still think there's moves to be made. I mean, you could upgrade in center field. Right now, Aaron Hicks is still your center fielder, but he's had trouble staying on the field, and he's had that surgically reconstructed elbow and hasn't been the same since. Seiya Suzuki is yet to sign anywhere, so that remains a possibility. We heard how lively the free agent market was going to be for relief pitchers, but we really haven't seen it. Kelly Jansen's still out there, got a good cutter. He's, getting up there in age, but he's still effective. So there are some people that are still out there. Chris Bryant can play center field if you wanted to get him on a 1-year deal. You're really a year and a half away from Jason Dominguez. So, kind of like with Kiner Falefa at shortstop, you're trying to bridge the gap. So let's talk about it. Mr. Ox says, welcome back, Rizzo. Daniel Mancini says, if we don't trade for someone good, we have to boycott. Mike to AC Merch says Rizzo is solid, and I agree. I definitely agree that Rizzo he's a solid player, and that's kind of what we need.
Yes, I agree.
Let's see what else we got. Robert Kelly says, good, he wants to play here.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good when a player experiences New York and then still wants to come back and play, because that isn't always the case. Kenny Rogers after the 95 season was super excited to sign a contract with the Yankees, but he couldn't wait to get out of town after that first rough year. So, hey, I'm not going to crush the Yankees for this. A 2-year deal is not a big deal. I mean, you could have him for 1 year and then deal him if you have a better option next year, right? The Yankees needed to get a first baseman in camp, right? And they needed some left-handed bats. The addition of Rodvelt and the addition of Rizzo to go along with Gallo, maybe you get Hicks. You got some lefty elements at least, more than you had last year. People are saying boycott. Oh, man. Oh, this is rough. Pamela Davis, usually with great takes, says, I'm not mad at all we got Rizzo. I'm just not happy we didn't get Olson. And that's kind of how I feel. I'm going to give you the air horn. I rarely break out the air horn. but that's how I feel. All winter I was pushing for Matt Olson. I just think he's perfectly built for Yankee Stadium. And one thing that goes on behind the scenes that a lot of people don't realize, and they talk about this in Inside the Empire, when the Yankees were trading Brian McCann, they asked him, "Hey, where would you like to go?" And they gave him a few cities. Matt Olson came up with Oakland, and he's got a lot of respect there. He's done a lot for the community. It would not shock me if we find out at some point that the A's general manager said, "Hey, you have an opportunity to go to the Yankees or you have an opportunity to go to the Braves." And because the Braves are his hometown, he probably chose the Braves. That's just my hypothesis. And the package of 4 of their top 13 prospects probably didn't hurt. If you think about that, that would have been, Volpe and Dominguez and probably, 1 or 2 of the lower level guys that we don't really hear much about. The Vargases or, the Beck Ways, somebody like that. So it would have been a crushing deal. Like if we had traded Volpe and Dominguez for Olson, yeah, I would have been happy we got Olson, but I would have been devastated about giving up Volpe and Dominguez. We're always looking forward to the next batch of baby bombers, right? Ever since the 90s when we had all these guys come up, and we have to realize it's rare for groups to come up that have that much success. And the Yankees have been trying to redo it. I think about 2008 when the rotation was supposed to be Phil Hughes, Ian Kennedy, and Jabba Chamberlain. And combined, I think they didn't win any games. Maybe they got 1 or 2 wins. I don't know. Jabba did maybe a little bit that year. I think he might have had some Tommy John surgery or something. I don't know. Uh, it's a consistent theme that they push these, baby bombers on us, but realistically only 1 or 2 of them out of every batch work out. Out of that batch, I'd say Phil Hughes was probably the best because, he at least gave you 4 or 5 years in the rotation. Ian Kennedy got traded. He helped get you Curtis Granderson. But sometimes you have to move prospects. And I just think that the Yankees are very high on Volpe, on Peraza, on Dominguez, and they're just waiting to see how these guys pan out. Now, they might deal one of them at some point, in a few months if one of them has a bad year. And I get that people say the Yankees prospect hug, right? They definitely hype their prospects. I remember Blake Rutherford and Jorge Mateo, all supposed to be the next big thing. But, every once in a while you do get the Aaron Judge or for an instant, Gary Sanchez. These guys do happen. And so I don't blame the Yankees for trying to catch lightning in a bottle. And I really believe in Anthony Volpe. I've been watching so many highlights of this guy. He's just got such a compact swing. You can't trade him. He's from New York. He's got $1 million smile. $1 million smile. He's going to be, if he has any kind of success, he's going to be on every billboard in the city for 10 years. So I'm not unhappy that we didn't trade those guys. I am a little disappointed that Matt Olson's going to be playing with the Braves, but, probably his hometown team is his favorite team, so I don't blame him. Not So Family Fun Vision says Rizzo has an exemption for the vaccine because he has cancer, had cancer. Okay, that's interesting. I did know that he had cancer. I didn't know that there was an exemption involved, but that makes sense. So apparently, if you have a legit medical reason to avoid uh, the vaccine, then there's nothing they can do about it, right? It'll be interesting to see who ends up not being able to play in Yankee Stadium. Look, there was a lot of talk about Aaron Judge today because he kind of gave a roundabout answer when asked if he had a vaccine. And look, it's none of our business. But if he didn't have it, we're going to find out when he's not in the lineup. But honestly, I think they may drop that rule. I think people are starting to realize that it's time to get on with our lives. And I'm a big advocate of vaccination. But at this point, you've had enough time to get it. And, we all in this country have to do our best to be safe and take care of ourselves and take care of our neighbors. But at a certain point, once everybody's done what they can, it's like, okay, proceed with caution, maybe wear a mask on an airplane or if you go to the movie theater, if you're in a big crowd at a concert or whatever. But otherwise, just live your life. and you'll probably be fine, especially athletes. So, I think that rule might go away here pretty soon. Unhinged Yankees, my boy Patrick. Patrick is the man. Says legend. You're the legend, my friend. You are the legend. Thank you so much. Let's see. Daniel Mancini says IFK, Stanton, Rizzo, Gallo. I think he left out Judge. Oh yeah, oh I get it because of the whole vaccine thing. Matt Sheridan says Volpe is the future. I agree. Jariah with the comment: how big is the New York mandate ordeal going to play with the players who aren't vaccinated? Last I heard, there were only 2 players that weren't vaccinated. We don't know who they are. I suppose we'll find out if they aren't ready by opening day to play. One thing you have to keep in mind, and I heard this on the Michael K show, is that if you get your first dose of the vaccination now, I think, I mean, you're pushing it to be ready for opening day because you got to be double vaccinated, and there's like a 3-week period. So, I mean, maybe we can get one of those like wink and nod from a doctor, like, hey, you're good. So I don't know. Doctor's note. I don't know. Do we have any sketch doctors in New York that can step up to the plate if one of these guys doesn't want to get vaccinated? It reminds me, like, like I'm all for vaccinations and stuff, but like, I want the Yankees to win. I want everybody on the field. I think about the movie Summer of Sam. You guys might remember that, where they're trying to figure out who the killer is, and it was David Berkowitz. But somebody suggested, because the guy was using a 44 caliber, that the killer could be Reggie Jackson, and they were like, "No, don't give that tip. We need Reggie Jackson on the field." And that's like such a typical Yankee fan. I feel the same way. Look, I want everybody to be vaccinated. I want everybody to be safe. But I also believe in personal freedoms, and if you decide not to get it, then hey, that's your decision. But at some point, as a state, as government, you got to kind of step back and let human beings be themselves. So that's just what I would say. Brother Bulldozer says cut Hicks. Not sure where that came from. Um, this guy says I'd like a Marte and Zach Gallen package. Interesting. Thank you for the don't know. Marte, Ketel Marte is a good hitter, but he's had some injury problems too, especially in the calf area. And that's a problem because calf injuries, as we've seen with the newest Yankee, Josh Donaldson, can be recurring. Giancarlo Stanton also had that issue in the past. Not So Family Fun Vision says, this team reminds me of that 2017 team. That was a fun team, wasn't it? I mean, 1 win away from the World Series. They overperformed. So, I mean, we're always hoping to get that fun, energetic team again. I mean, that team had Didi. I still think it was a mistake getting rid of him. If you could have kept him around as a bench player, you don't want him starting, that's fine. I get he wanted to start. He could have got more money from Philadelphia, but he was made for New York, man. He was clutch. But he's regressed, so I get it. Zach Harfst says, I want the Pirates guy. I think Brian Reynolds. Yeah, Ashland brings up a great point. Says asking players to get vaccinated is nonsense when they don't even ask fans for evidence going into a game. People don't even use masks. I get it. Like, at this point, most people have been vaccinated. I think it's 70% of people or whatever have been vaccinated. So if you haven't, it's not like you haven't heard about it. It's free. You've made the decision not to get it. And at this point, I just think it's appropriate that, since everybody who wants it has had the opportunity to get it, to just, especially athletes, right? Or anybody who wants to work, everybody has a right to, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's one thing if you're, I'm not even gonna go there. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. I'm so over COVID. I'm so over like the world being just so psycho over this. And it was bad. It was bad, but we have a vaccine. So, I mean, hey, look, I just think they need to drop that mandate. I just think that's what they should do. Martin Kalunga says, I'm interested to see how new hitting coach Larson does with the newest Yankee, Donaldson. Um, yeah, Donaldson's a guy who's also very scientific about hitting, so he probably shares a lot of the thought processes that Donaldson is going to try and teach or try and preach. Let's see here. Jack Berman says, "How long have you been streaming?" So far, we're 15 minutes in. I'm getting ready to call it a night, though. It is officially Wednesday, March 16th. Anthony Rizzo coming back. I appreciate everybody who joined on this late night stream. This may not be the end of the moves. I mean, Luke Voigt's still got to go somewhere. Yankees still have a lot of work to do, but I appreciate everybody joining. We will finish with this one. Mr. Next Big Thing says, not Yankees related, but thoughts on Batman. I thought Batman was terrific. I thought it was terrific. Everything from the cinematography and the way it was shot to kind of look like a comic book, like with the lighting. And they're driving and they show the mirror with the headlights really big and bright, like they would in a comic book. I thought is it Paul Dano? I think that's his name. The guy who played the Riddler was freaking phenomenal. The guy who played Gordon, Commissioner Gordon, amazing, amazing actor. Same guy who was in Westworld. And I thought Robert Pattinson was a good Batman. I wish they had shown more of his life as Bruce Wayne. But they really amplified like the detective nature of how Batman solves crimes, which I love as part of the comic books. And I still watch the cartoons. I am a 38-year-old 8-year-old. And on that note, good night, everybody. I'll see you next time.